All right. So which topic do you want to do first? I don't care either way, but
let's do. I mean, it's okay.
First,
let's do.
let's start with the presidential candidate that we support, just so we can get an idea of how we all.
None. At this point, none.
The candidate that we support.
Yeah, I mean, you can say Bernie. I'm looking up.
Yeah, right now, I mean, if Bernie entered the race again, I would 100%, if I was old enough, vote for him. But currently, nothing. Nobody.
He dropped out for him to be off the ballot.
What? Yeah, but still, as a voter, which I'm not, but like as a voter, it'd be irresponsible to vote for him because you're basically wasting your vote.
Then you're just voting.
Well, that's only in the actual presidential election. In the primaries, it's not going to do anything.
But in the
gauge of
presidential election itself, I could not vote for Bernie because that just counted as a green and would vote for Trump immediately.
And also, in the primaries, that's supposed to give you a good gauge of how the election will turn out. So if we all vote for Bernie, we have a split vote and we have no clue about how to go about things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Who wants to go next?
Okay. I mean, obviously Trump.
Yeah, I got that.
I support President Donald Trump. Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so we are two topics. If you want to add more at the end, who cares? We can go all about this, or we can unmute people at the end. That's the thing we'll discuss later. Anyway, LGBTQ plus abortion. Yeah, I don't care which one goes first, but
What's the debate about LGBTQ? I mean,
it's a broad topic. That's why I said it like that so broadly, just because there's so many things you can talk about. I didn't want to define it down to just like a simple subtopic.
Yeah, because there's so many different things you can discuss on that we can't really bring it down into one category.
I'd suggest probably starting with LGBTQ so we can, because abortion's going to take forever. So
yeah.
I don't know if it will. They might. Okay. Anyway,
it really depends on how it works.
Do you have any like chosen subtopics or?
Yeah, I mean you can't really just say debate LGBTQ.
Well, okay. So there are a few things you can talk about. Number of genders, trans people in the military. That's a few things. Should they be able to get married? Gay people, I mean, because apparently not everyone believes in that.
Yeah. So let's start with that question. So, do you guys think that LGBTQ plus people should be able to be legally married?
Well, of course they should.
Yeah,
you're a good one. You're one of the good ones.
Okay, I'm glad that we all agree on that.
The only thing I have again, I don't think that the government should force a church to have a gay wedding. That's the only issue I have. Like if it's a Catholic church, I don't think it should be forced to have a gay wedding.
That's the thing. If churches are privatized, they don't have to. If they're a private establishment, but most churches are not funded, but they don't have to pay taxes. So that's they have like that jurisdiction under the government. So that's why the government can force them to do things. But if they're a privatized church, they don't have to.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think that anybody should be forced to do any. I mean, I don't think that, say, like an LGBTQ plus bar or anything should be forced to have a straight wedding, I think that nobody should be forced to do anything.
Yeah. And I agree with that.
Yeah. Transgender people in the military? Thoughts?
That's a hard one.
No, yeah. Whatever you say, we will not be mad at you.
Yeah,
honestly, I think they should. I think anyone who's willing to fight for this country, if they're physically and mentally fit to do it, I don't think that they should be denied. But if it would cost an amount of money for like I forgot the word.
For transition. Okay. And I'm not trying to disprove you or anything. This is just a general fact I'm throwing out there. It's actually, when you think about it, not that much. It's, I believe, 0.17 to 0.56% of the military's funding. And to put that in perspective, we spend 10 times more on Viagra for the military than the highest cost of transition surgery for trans people in the military. Which kind of seems worth it in the end. And that's assuming that everyone gets top and bottom surgery, which probably is not going to be the case.
Yeah, that is
Viagra.
A lot of the time. a lot of trans people, especially trans men, don't want to get top and bottom surgery because it very much takes a toll on your physical and mental health.
It's weird, huh?
So
sorry.
So most of the time that is not going to happen. Like, I personally have a lot of trans friends that do not want bottom surgery because it's a very painful mentally and physically process to go through. So
yeah, see that, yeah. I use the Viagra thing because it's such a pointless thing to have such a large budget for in the military.
Well, I mean, personally, I think the military, I don't know. When you think about it, our military is like higher than the GDP of pretty much every other country on earth. So.
Well, right, but Viagra.
Yeah,
I'm not saying anything about military funding itself, but if we really want sufficient military funding, we should use it on things that are for or that are actually for benefit, not, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, he's muted.
And that goes under this could just be me, but if you're in the military, they will pay for your college, and just because you are fighting for our country, I feel like if you're trans and you're in the military, they should pay for your surgeries, because it's not as expensive as people make it out to be because of all the military funding we have, which is still a lot, but it's not as much as people consider it to be. So I feel like that should be like.
Yeah, Matthew got muted.
Oh really? I'm sorry. I didn't.
I mean the government is spending what was it, billions of dollars on the military all the time, but I mean, say someone gets keyhole top surgery, that's only around $12,000, which is a tiny fraction of how much the military spends, or the government spends on the military in general.
Yeah, and realistically, there's more than likely not going to be an extreme amount of transgender people in the military anyways.
Yeah, exactly, 100%, because there's such a awful
stigma.
Like, there's such an awful stereotype against trans people in the military, and it's kind of honestly unsafe, but I think if they want the choice to fight for this country, they should 100% be allowed to have that right.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
100%. Okay.
The only thing is when you get like into the military and stuff, my uncle was in it, and when you're down there, I mean, it's not very far-fetched to say that say you're born a man and you transition to become a woman or something. It's not hard to say that you would be like sexually assaulted or something like that. Like,
that would 100%. That's why I said it was partially unsafe for trans people to go into the military. But I'm saying that if they want the option to go into the military and they want to fight for our country, which a lot of people do, they should be allowed to have that right, and they should be treated like normal people because they are normal people.
And also, I've never heard, correct me if I'm wrong, but I've never heard anything about that being an increased risk or an increase happening in the military in regards to trans people. I know it happens, but I don't know about trans people in general, so I feel like that's not an issue at the moment, at least.
I mean, it doesn't happen frequently, but of course it does happen with a lot of trans people. But or before, they were banned from
the military,
from being in the military, but it did happen, and I think that it's unsafe. But if they want the right, they should be allowed to have that right, and they should be treated like normal people instead of being treated like they are some subsection of human. Yeah, because they're not. They're just normal people who are just trying to live their lives, and if they want to live their lives fighting for our country, they should be allowed to do that.
Yeah, and I know what it's like, because I can't go into the military because I have asthma, and up until I was like probably 13, and when I realized I did have asthma and I couldn't go into the military, I always wanted to join the Marines, because that's what I think. If you go back 4 generations in my family, they've all been Marines, so that's always what I've been wanting to do, but now I can't, and I know what it's like saying you can't do something that you've wanted to do your whole life. So
yeah, it's upsetting.
It's very upsetting, especially feeling like you're being treated very differently than other people, which is already a thing that many trans people go through every single day, treated like they're not the same, which I think that if they want to enter the military, they should, because I think everyone should be allowed to enter the military unless you have some sort of life-threatening condition like asthma or a heart issue or anything like that. But I think
even if it's down to like bad eyesight, you can't join the military.
Yeah, but I'm saying if you're a healthy trans person, you should be allowed.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying obviously everybody should be allowed in the military, because that'd be unfair to people with heart conditions and stuff that want to be safe for them. But they just need to. I think that if they're a healthy trans person, then you should be allowed to go in. You know.
Yeah, I feel like there's really no difference in the end. When you actually think about it, there's no inherent difference between a trans person and you, other than the fact that they have gender dysphoria, which on its own is not debilitating. It can cause, that's another common claim. People are like, oh, well, their suicide rate is higher. And it's like, yes, because they're being discriminated against. But gender dysphoria on its own is not a debilitating disorder. And when you go into the military, I feel like there should be a process, if there's not already, correct me if I'm wrong, where you submit to a mental health check. So that can be determined early on instead of just waiting for the inevitable, which I feel like would be safer and for everyone, especially, and that would allow trans people to be in the military without having to literally fight for it.
Exactly, 100%. It's insane how many people think that gender dysphoria, just because someone has gender dysphoria, they shouldn't be allowed in the military.
Someone got muted. Who's getting muted?
Who?
Someone in the comment was in all caps saying unmute me. I don't know if it's someone who's supposed
I think it was Condi. I'll do it after, but
yeah,
Matthew, you haven't heard you say much. Do you have anything to say?
I think if you're trans and you're physically and mentally fit to go into the military, you can go ahead. I don't care. As long as if anybody's willing to fight for this country.
Yeah. Agreed. So is there another thing we talked about? Oh, wait. Oh, the gender debate.
Oh.
Yes.
Are we debating gender or sex? Are we saying sex is different than gender? Or are we saying
sex is different than gender?
Yes.
It depends on the culture. It depends on where you are.
Scientifically, gender is not interchangeable with sex.
Yeah, it's very different. Sex is the assigned genitals that you are giving. Gender is what you feel or what you identify as.
And that's a common conception as well, because I'm not saying y'all are going to use this, but a lot of a common rebuttal against that is, okay, so I can identify as a attack helicopter. No, because gender identity falls within a spectrum between male and female. Everything in between male and female, with the middle being non-binary, that's what you can identify as a gender. You can't identify as an inanimate object because it does not fall in the gender spectrum.
The only thing I hate is when people say that there's like millions of genders and all that.
Yeah.
There might, I don't know, but I mean, until you can name every million genders, there's only as many as we know of right now. It's like
I don't think what they mean is that it's a spectrum, and on a spectrum there's many given points.
I just don't understand how there could be a million things between male and female. Like,
well, no one said that there's a million things between male and female. Nobody said that. There are people who.
If gender is a spectrum between male, like from male and female, how can there be a million things in between it?
Nobody said that. I just said that. Nobody has said that.
In fact, I believe the exact number is 76.
Yeah, there is a few people who like to create fake, not fake, but they want to create outlandish identities that think that it's basically just their personality. But between male and female, we do know that there is lots of lots of identities in between that. I think, like Amber said, I think 76 is the official number.
Yeah, and also whether, I'm not saying y'all, but whether you believe in it or not, I don't see the reason behind simply not misgendering someone because you don't believe in it. I don't believe in a lot of things, but I'm not going to disrespect you if you believe or identify as one of those things.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think that we should just let people do what makes them happy, unless it's hurting somebody, And there is literally there is more than 2 sexes and there is more than 2 genders.
I believe there are 5 sexes.
There's 6 chromosome pairings, I believe, 5 or 6.
Well, there's
Um,
there's XY, XX, there's XXY, XYY, and there's a few other ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why there's different there is different sexes and there is different genders, and there's definitely more than two, and we can definitely prove that there's more than two scientifically.
In both scenarios, you can prove that there's more than two, which
Exactly.
I feel like a lot of people don't look into that, but that is what has been scientifically proven.
Yeah, we can scientifically, and in a topic as complicated as gender and as complicated as sex, there is science is the main thing that we need to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
We can't just listen to, people saying this or this or this. We need to listen to science, and what science is saying is that there's more than one sex and there's more than one gender.
Which I understand. A lot of people say it's hard for me to catch up, and I understand it is hard for people to catch up because we've never had to think about these things because no one has been confident enough to open up about it on like a public basis because of fear of being killed. So now that we're having to look at these things, I understand like the concerns, but like Willow said, we have to pay attention to science, and science says that there are more than two genders and more than two sexes. So we cannot simply disregard the science behind it just because we don't feel like it's okay.
Yeah, we can't just say that this is this or this because we think that way. We need to listen to facts and science and things that we know and things that we understand. And, we have figured out so much in such a short amount of time. We have figured out so much, and we can't just say things because we feel one way. We have to talk about facts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is that the end of this one, or you want to go on to like the next topic, or
Yeah, we can go on to the next topic. There's not really much of a debate.
Yeah, I think we all agree on this topic.
Yeah.
Okay, so
like abortion, or do you want to go on to like the next?
What other things would there be to debate in like the LGBT whatever?
I think we got everything.
Yeah.
I think we got everything that we could get.
Just give them the same rights we have. I mean, it's really not.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So, are we going to talk about the abortion thing?
Oh.
Not people asking to be unmuted.
Let's get into it.
Yeah.
Yes.
About people asking to be unmuted. I do that at the very end. I just gradually unmute everyone around the end. So that's what I do. And okay, abortion.
All right, you two can make your stance, and then we'll make ours.
Okay, I am very much pro-choice. I am very, I like to listen to the argument that of pro-lifers, but I myself am 100% pro-choice. I think that every woman should have the choice to do what they want with their bodies and with their uterus, and it should not be forced upon them what they want to do with their bodies.
And for me, I'm also pro-choice. However, my reasoning for being pro-choice is that if we ban abortions, the rates are going to go up. And that has been proven time and time again. And the moral thing for me, it's very in the middle because I do not think abortion is morally okay. But I know that if we ban abortions, they're only going to go up. So that's what I'm trying to prevent. I'm trying to provide safe abortions so that people aren't at risk.
Okay.
Yeah. So
you can go.
I was just gonna ask you guys what your stance on that on.
I am pro. I'd like to say I'm pro-life, but I think I'm pro. I'd like to say I'm pro-choice until maybe like 6 weeks. I think that's like an acceptable time limit, but I don't think that anything past 6 weeks is reasonable unless it's going to unless it would actually like physically hurt the woman. So.
Well, I mean, at 6 weeks, the baby still can't feel pain. So.
And my question is, why 6 weeks?
Yeah, like I can pull up an image of what a fetus at 6 weeks looks like, and also most women don't find out that they are even pregnant until 6 weeks.
My mom found out she was pregnant with me at I think 3-4 weeks.
Well,
so
she was very
average-
lucky that she
Yeah.
experienced symptoms that early, but a lot of women don't find out until 6 weeks or later. And at 6 weeks, the baby still cannot feel pain because the cortex isn't fully developed.
Yeah.
The cortex is not fully developed until much later.
Well, do you all agree that life does start at conception, or do you think it starts somewhere else?
Cellular life.
I believe cellular life
What's the
starts
difference
at
between
conception.
cellular life and human life?
Here's the thing.
Human life. Okay, I'm sorry.
Human life is it's cellular human life because it does have DNA, et cetera, et cetera. However, cells have a process. You go from cell to the tissue, then organs, then it becomes an organism. So people often confuse cellular life with personhood, which I'm not saying whatever, you can believe a fetus is whatever, a baby, but it's a common misconception, and if that's a fact that it is cellular life that begins at conception. That's what everyone tries to use to just for their argument and say, oh, it's a baby. No, it's simply cellular life, and just I don't want to say clump of cells because it's not a clump of cells. It's cells.
Can I interrupt for a second? There is people in the chat that we need to remove that are saying very racist things right now that we do need to.
Yeah,
we do need. I would prefer if we could remove them.
If y'all could say the name of the people, I can
Jazelyn.
Yeah.
Jazelyn, and there was one more person, and Jamil.
I was gonna read that too. It's not very.
I apologize if I butchered you two's names.
Well, you shouldn't apologize.
Well, I just don't want to. I don't want to disrespect anybody's names, no matter the.
It's such like a 5th grade thing to say. It's just so stupid.
I just prefer not to disrespect anybody.
No.
You know?
I'm saying what they're saying.
Oh, okay. I prefer not to disrespect people.
Like 5-year-olds on Fortnite.
I should move.
Yeah. Okay. Back to the topic at hand. Sorry to interrupt you, Amber. Continue.
No, you're all good, and that's just what I'm saying. It's actually very different from cellular human life versus being a baby, and I feel like if we're going to talk about the semantics of abortion, you need to use the correct terminology, and a lot of people don't. So that's just my point in that.
Yeah, I think that there is a difference between cellular life and human life, because cellular life, I agree, starts at conception because it does become a cell, but human life, they do not have all 7 characteristics of life, so I do not consider it a human or a baby.
Well,
I do not consider.
There are also humans that don't have all 7 characteristics.
What?
Like which?
Well, okay. So what do you say? What are the 7 characteristics of life? Can you name them?
Yes, I can. The 7 characteristics of life are responsiveness to the environment, growth and change, ability to reproduce, have a metabolism and breathe, maintain homeostasis, being made of cells, and passing traits on to offspring. I say you need to have at least 4 or 5 of those for me to consider you a human. And I'm saying that for a fetus, I do not think that if they only really have 2 or 3 of the characteristics of life, so I do not consider it a living thing.
Josiah, chill out.
Shut the fuck up.
I know we're friends, but I will kick you out. So chill out.
Yeah. Yes, please. Thank you. But I do think that cellular life and human life are 2 very different things.
Josiah did say sorry, but he's black. I don't know. Okay.
Oh God, that's kind of dark.
Oh wow.
I can justify it by saying that he said to kill them all. So there's that. We're just gonna kick him out. No, Josiah's black.
Yeah. What did Josiah say?
Anyway, I'm so sorry. Please continue. I don't want me to interrupt.
No, my thought was finished. So Wyatt or Matthew, if you'd like to, say your.
I think my thoughts on abortion is, I think it's you're ruining the development of a human baby that's will develop into a baby into a human life.
Okay.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Do either of you think that abortion is murder?
And killing it. Yes.
I think if it's
Okay.
I think it is.
I don't know.
Okay, my question to you, if you think that abortion is murder, is a miscarriage manslaughter then?
No.
No.
I never said it was murder.
Well, yeah, that she was just asking.
But my stance is, if
natural.
you think that abortion is murder, then why do you not consider miscarriage manslaughter? Because by definition, manslaughter is the accidental killing of another human being. So if you think, and murder is the intentional killing of another human being. So if you are going to say abortion is murder, the killing of another human being, then by definition, you would think miscarriage is manslaughter.
No, because it was not killed by
But
somebody
it'd be the accidental killing of another human being by your stance.
Okay, well, I think that
But there's
people.
nothing.
You can go. No, you can go.
There's like nothing the mom could do about the miscarriage, though.
Well, in a manslaughter
involuntary manslaughter.
Miscarriages are natural.
In a manslaughter case, if you are driving across the street and someone happens to slide in front of your car that you can't see, that is manslaughter. And
yes,
it's manslaughter,
no,
even though you didn't mean to.
Not necessarily true.
Yeah, no.
If it can be proven, if it is proven that it's not your fault and they were like drunk or they swerved into you're not going to get charged with anything.
But a manslaughter case is the accidental killing of another human being, which if you think a fetus is a human being, then a miscarriage would be manslaughter.
Not necessarily, because
miscarriages
are natural. It's a natural process that happens.
Well, also not necessarily, because a lot of women, not a lot, I'm not gonna say a lot, but women sometimes induce their own miscarriage by accident. Whether or someone like accidentally knocks into them so hard that like it damages something in their stomach, and so would you consider that would be considered manslaughter if it was a person, because it's technically your fault, but you didn't mean to, it was just an accident.
Yeah, like if you don't know you're pregnant and you're drinking, would that be considered a manslaughter to you? Because I know a lot of women who didn't know that they were pregnant and were drinking at a bar and then only later found out that they had a miscarriage.
That's different.
I don't see how that's different, because if you consider a fetus a living human being, then I do not understand how you think that it's different.
Well, like 90% of the time, miscarriage is because of natural causes from mother.
Yeah, 90% of the time, but that 10%, would you still consider that manslaughter? 10% is still a 10%.
The only thing with that, miscarriages will happen. I mean, I get like the drinking and all that stuff. It is a natural process that does happen sometimes. But you can't say it's manslaughter if someone drives in front of your car, because it's not natural for humans to kill each other with vehicles. Those aren't natural processes. If it's going to happen naturally, there's nothing you can do about it. That's not manslaughter.
Before we continue, I would like to ask a question. So a lot of people, I'm not saying y'all, but a lot of people, they say, oh, I don't agree with abortion unless it's in this case, or I don't agree with abortion unless it's in this case. What is your full stance?
If it's going to kill her, I don't think she should have it. And if she is raped, I'm on the fence on that one. I haven't really looked into that one because it's not a very common occurrence. So I haven't looked into that. So
Matthew?
The only exception, in my opinion, is if there's life is in danger.
Okay. And the thing about,
but what about
rape?
Yeah.
That's a hard one. I don't know.
Okay. So I know you're not a female, so you can't really experience this, but I want you to imagine being cornered in an alleyway, assaulted, being impregnated, and being forced to have that baby, look that baby in the eyes every single day. And don't pull up the adoption thing, because I can give statistics of how many children are abused in adoption facilities and how many children aren't actually adopted. But imagine being assaulted and being forced to have that baby and look that baby and raise that baby and put all your time and money and energy into this baby.
That is rapist. And I have another thing to build off of that. If we did make abortions only legal in the case of, the mother's life being in danger and rape, 98% of rape cases go unreported. Why is that? A lot of women don't want to have to face their rapist in a court of law or at all, or they're in denial. So by forcing
a lot of them have been manipulated to think that it's their fault too.
Yeah, that exactly. Well, yeah. So they're in denial. Is that's the same thing. But you are in turn forcing women to have to go to court to face their trauma, which can cause anxiety, depression, and PTSD. So I feel like it'd not be a foolproof process. And also, by the time they get out of that court case and prove their rapist guilty, that baby's a lot more far along than it would have been initially. So it's not a win for anyone.
My whole thing is if it's consensual between two consenting humans, then you have no reason to have an abortion unless it is medically necessary.
Okay, so if we ban all abortions, then what's your solution after that?
What?
What's your solution for the women who don't want their babies?
I think we need to fund the adoption centers more, and I think that adoption is a great tool.
Yeah, my only issue with that is that
I think we should.
It's a problematic system at the moment. And since it's a problematic system at the moment, we can't use it to justify banning abortions because it's an issue at the moment. That would be a viable option once we do reform the adoption system, if we do reform the adoption system. But at the moment, and also, I know this for a fact, from the Child Information and Welfare Gateway, 3/4 of women who put their babies up for adoption end up experiencing remorse and suicidal thoughts for 12 to 20 years after. So by forcing that woman to have that baby and put her baby up for adoption because she cannot take care of it and does not want it, so you're forcing her to put up for adoption, you are putting that mother's life at risk by subjecting her to experiencing remorse and suicidal thoughts, which can. Are we
talking in cases of rape, or are we talking in cases of consent?
Both.
Well, I don't agree with the whole rape thing. I know it's a problematic topic to say, well, if you were raped, you can have one because people could lie, you could get accused and all that.
Oh, yeah.
But I feel like if it is consent and it's not medically necessary.
Wouldn't you agree that if we only made it legal in cases of rape, that false accusation rate would increase?
Well, yes, that's why I just said it's problematic.
Well, I mean, I think that adoption is still not a good option either way because 428,000 children are in adoption centers, but only 135,000 children are adopted each year. And
it's pretty hard to adopt.
And it should be rigorous, but it shouldn't have to take as long and as much money as we're making it out to be at the moment.
And also 81% of young girls have reported, and this is reported, and a lot of them have probably gone unreported. 81% of young girls have reported being assaulted in foster care, and that does not count.
Are different,
But foster care is the process between adoption.
Yes, but those are the families. That has nothing to do with the system. Those are the families that.
But
there are no orphanages in the U.S., so they have to go into the foster care system.
Well, there's a reason for that. My grandmother was in an orphanage in Soviet Russia, and they didn't get fed.
Well, I'm glad that's not a thing. I'm not saying that, but you said it's because of the families. Yes, it is because of the families, but that's the only option in between. So we need to reform that.
I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure if you do foster care, I think you get paid money.
You do.
I'm not positive.
You do get paid money, and a lot of people abuse the foster care system for the money.
And there are also good-hearted people out there that want to help.
Yes, but the percentage, if you look up right now cases of foster care families just fostering a child for the money and not spending that money on the child instead of spending it on themselves or their other children, it's so ridiculously high.
A lot of foster families end up abusing their foster children and misusing the government money that they receive because there's no regulation or checks to see if they're actually using that money for their foster child, if they're using it for themselves or their biological children.
Okay, I just want to make it clear. If we just outright say you can't have an abortion, it's going to start something like when we made alcohol illegal. Like stuff like that's going to start happening. Making movies, and people would die from drinking.
Yeah.
So I don't think that you just say you can't have an abortion, we're going to ban all abortions. Whenever you ban something, it's going to have a negative effect.
Yeah, and I agree. Yeah. I completely agree. But right now we're talking about the rape cases and how if we were to ban a majority of abortions, it's only 1% of abortions that happen because of rape. So if we were to ban the majority of abortions, that would be a prominent problem.
The only thing, there have been 600,000 abortions here statistically. If you go like averages, I mean, it's been going down. I know. I think it's been going down, but 600,000 a year. Those are 600,000 humans that did not get to live.
Yes, but prior to Roe v. Wade, it was much higher.
Yes, when abortions were banned, it was proven that there were more when it was banned, and more people were dying because the mother was more than likely dying as well. And also, the chat is I think I think we need to. Yeah, we either need to moderate the chat or turn it off because there is a lot of people that are saying very offensive things right now.
If y'all could tell me how to make someone co-host, I can make one of my friends in the chat co-host, and they could moderate the chat.
I swear. And saying offensive things does not get your point across. I'd like to say that.
They just want attention.
I understand that, but they're also trying to prove their point, and saying offensive things just makes me disrespect your point more.
The whole reason they do it. It's like a 5th grade thing. They think
I mean, calling me pink hair doesn't make your point any more valid.
Dude, I have pink hair too.
Like I dyed my hair pink because that's my favorite color, and I don't know if you want to call me.
My sister has pink hair. My sister has pink hair, and she's Republican. So like that whole thing, it's just stupid.
It's just saying offensive things or stereotypes is just it's not funny or cool or cute. It's just
If Oliver's still in here, I'll make him co-host it. No, he's not.
Trump 2020 called me a dishwasher.
See, that's oh my god, you're just making us Trump supporters look bad. Shut the fuck up.
Any of my friends are in the chat.
I mean,
that I can make
I hate it when Trump supporters openly support Trump and then openly insult people.
Yeah, you cannot.
I'll turn off.
I think we can all agree that you cannot support somebody and then make a bad impact for all those. For
going to be unmuted. We're going to do it at the end. I promise you, I do it at the end every time.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, I think that abortion should not be banned or made, or the access should not be made harder to get access to an abortion, because the rates are just going to go up and more people are going to die because the mother is then being put in an unsafe situation.
It has even been proven that if we put regulations and restrictions on time frames in which women can have abortions actually do increase as well. So I don't even believe in that.
I think that okay, so I don't know if you guys have seen the videos of a former doctor who would perform abortions. He explained how a second trimester abortion happened. They they crush the baby's skull and they suck it out with a vacuum.
That happens 9% of the time. That is a common misconception to scare that the media uses to scare you.
No,
91% of all abortions happen before the 13th week.
And
I'm not talking about percentages. I'm saying that, you said 1% is a big number. I'm saying that second trimester, even that should be wrong. I don't care how the percentage is. I don't care.
Yeah, I didn't
okay,
say
but a tiny
percentage, and as well as that, I don't think Willow and I both morally agree with second trimester abortions.
Yeah, I think that in second, third trimester should only be done if is life-threatening to either the baby or to the mother.
And sorry.
We can go over Roe v. Wade a million times before 14th Amendment, we have to talk about that. I love, a lot of Trump supporters love to talk about the Second Amendment, then we have to talk about the 14th Amendment, which is right to privacy, which protects in Roe v. Wade, which protects the right of a woman to have an abortion.
And I would also like to bring up the fact, I would totally be on board with just straight up putting strict regulations on second and third trimester abortions if it had not happened before and it had been proven to be ineffective. Because either state lines are complete, like in Ohio, state lines, it shows to be effective, but state lines are completely useless. So they'll just go over to the next state and get an abortion in second trimester. And by putting regulations on second and third trimester abortions, you are putting stress on a woman for the first however many given weeks to decide in a very short period of time if they want an abortion or not. So they're inevitably going to choose abortion a lot more instead of having time to rationally think about it. If you have that full time to think about it, you are statistically so much more likely to have that baby, which is what we all want.
And of course, I'm morally so against second, third trimester abortions, but babies cannot, or fetuses cannot feel pain until the the late third trimester, because the cortex isn't fully developed. But I don't think we should ban abortion because of one case of a baby found in a plastic bag in the woods in Georgia, because in Georgia it was illegal, and because the woman was forced to have the baby, she killed it and placed it in a plastic bag and threw it in the woods. And and then it can feel pain. That baby can feel pain and now is a living thing. So I think the consensus is, would you rather the mother abort the baby when it cannot feel pain and is roughly the size of a plankton shrimp, or would you rather the mother brutally murder a baby, or the father brutally murder a baby when it can feel pain and is a living, breathing thing the size of a human baby?
But like most of the time that doesn't happen.
But I'm saying it will still happen, and it will happen more often if you ban abortion, because that's exactly what happened in Georgia. They banned it, and there was a case of, a baby being killed, murdered.
And at that point, it is no question that it is murder.
And exactly at that point, it is no question that it is murder, because it is a living, breathing thing that has a heartbeat, that is breathing, and babies cannot breathe fetuses cannot breathe in the womb, so it is now a living, breathing thing when it comes out of the womb. And at that point, it is no argument, it is murder. So would you rather murder happen or a peaceful abortion happen?
It's not peaceful. There have been videos of fetuses moving away from the instrument because they don't.
Reflexes. Yeah. I'm telling you, that's reflexes.
Yeah,
that is not out of pain. A fetus has been proven that a fetus cannot feel pain until around the 22nd to the 24th week. But that is reflexes, and the nerves. Sorry, what?
Babies are born at 21, 22 weeks.
No, that is incorrect. It's 40 weeks.
There have been babies born prematurely at 22 weeks.
And that's a preemie baby. That is very rare.
You have to hook them up to systems in order to get their body systems developing and going. So
okay,
that's
not. So are people on ventilators not human?
That's not the same thing. That we're when you're talking in that case, that person had previously had consciousness. A fetus has never had consciousness. When you are and plus when you are on a ventilator and you no longer can sign off on your will and all that, the rights are signed over to your family.
Only if you're brain dead.
Yes, but that is
Wyatt, I have to ask you, with the reflex thing, if someone brought a scalpel towards you but didn't touch you, you would move away, correct? Because reflexes.
Depends on how close they're getting to me.
Okay, but if someone brings a scalpel towards you or a sharp object towards you, you're going to move away even if it doesn't touch you, correct? Because you want to get away from it. You don't want it to touch you.
I probably wouldn't move away. I'd probably attack them because I fight, not flight. So.
Okay, but we're talking about it. If
fetuses don't have fight or flight responses.
It is reflexes. Every single creature has a reflex. Every single clump of cells is going to have a reflex.
Even
if you hold a mushroom and you bring something near it, the gills will move. It's because every single clump of cells has a reflex.
Yes, so I think the whole debate is that if you don't value it, it's not alive. Because no one goes and tells pregnant women that want their child that their child's not alive.
Okay, but nobody also goes up to pregnant women, and most people, good people, don't go up to women who say I'm pregnant, and their first option is, okay, get an abortion.
That wasn't my point. My point was saying that you're trying to say that it's not human and all that stuff. I get all that. It's not an actual viable human and blah 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 blah. But I don't see anyone saying that to pregnant women. Because if a woman's pregnant and she wants the child, all of a sudden, oh, it's a beautiful human, it's all of this, it's all of that.
Well, that's because we know the baby is going to eventually be born.
It has to go with. So you're saying
we're not devaluing the baby's life. We're saying that we're saying that it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing.
If we know the fetus,
if a woman values their child, it's a human and it's their child. But if
no one is debating that it's not a human, we're debating that it's not a baby yet, which is a fact. You cannot debate that it is a baby because it's not. If you're talking semantically, it is not a baby.
Okay.
That's my point.
The reason we will.
So you're saying the difference is location.
No. It's location. It has to do with development. I guess location. Well, not even
so
location.
7 inches determines if you're a baby or a fetus.
Okay, listen to me.
Yes, development determines if you're a baby or a fetus. It does.
When does it become a baby? When does it become a baby?
When it's born.
It's born.
So what is the difference between a child that is just born and a 9-month-old baby that's going to be born next week?
The fact that you can't abort it legally.
What? So you can abort?
You can't abort a third trimester baby that is not.
No, I'm not saying about abortion. She just said that when it's born.
Yeah, when it's born, it is.
That's why it's not legal to have a third trimester abortion.
No, that's not my question. My question is, if it's born, then it becomes a baby. Why isn't a baby if it's a week before it's going to be born?
There's no difference, and that's why it's not legal.
I'm not talking about that.
I apologize. I should have said that at closer to the birth date, it is a baby. I apologize. I should have stated that. But I will not. That is the reason third trimester abortions are illegal unless it is causing danger to either the child or the mother. That's why it is legal. Because
the thing about abortion is I think people really normally only think about the woman. Some people probably think about the man, but I don't know if any of you know, but I said it in the last debate. One of my best friends got his girlfriend pregnant when they were both almost turning 17. Yep. He wanted that child with everything he lived with, and I mean, I saw the toll it took on him because he wanted that. He would have taken his life if that meant that child would have lived.
Okay, but that
woman that's different.
That man is never going to have to endure the pain and trauma of childbirth.
Secondly,
that man does not get to make the choice.
If he wanted to take care of his baby and he wanted to take care of that baby, he would have taken full responsibility of it. I feel in my heart that should have been considered, and I have no doubt that girl considered it. I can't find
the text. I mean, I have it somewhere.
But in the end, you cannot. I'm sorry. Like in your mind, I'm talking not from personal experience, but you cannot put your faith in a 17-year-old boy that he's going to take care of that child.
It wasn't just him; it was his whole family.
Okay, no, but in the end, it is not his choice. He is not. In the end, he is not birthing the baby. He is not giving birth to that. He's not going through the trauma
at that
and
point,
pain.
The mother was putting herself over another human.
Yeah, because the mother doesn't want to have to go.
So a mother.
Will you please let me speak, Wyatt? Will you please let me speak?
Wyatt, let me explain this. Just for a second. Okay. So when you are 17 years old, you are still legally a child. So people do not consider you an adult, and you cannot make decisions for yourself. Secondly, you cannot just out of human nature, you cannot put your faith in another person over something that severe, especially if you know in your heart that you will not uphold the same responsibility. I'm sure that's what that girl did. I cannot speak for her, and neither can you, which is why I do not support using anecdotal evidence. So I feel like that point in itself is completely invalid because we don't know the entire circumstance.
I can tell you the entire circumstance.
You can't speak for the man. You can't speak for that boy or the woman because you are not in their head.
Wyatt,
I was dear friends with both of them.
Wyatt, listen to me. And at the end of the day, the boy is not the one who is going to endure the pain, stress, trauma, and of childbirth. That woman or that girl was probably planning on continuing her studies or even going to college. And that is so hard. Please let me finish. Please do not cut me off to make your point. Thank you. She might have been planning on going back to school, and that is so hard to do with a baby, especially when you are that young. If she wants to, when do you know when the abortion was? Was it first trimester or second trimester? Do you know what it was?
13 weeks.
It was 13 weeks. Okay, so that's still first trimester. So that baby did not feel pain. It was maybe this big, maybe. Okay, and that is not a human life. It isn't.
Listen. She did it without even telling him. She did it without even telling him.
Okay, and that's her choice. But I am always going to value the living human.
That is the most selfish thing you can ever say.
Please let me
finish, Wyatt. She put herself over two other humans.
Wyatt, do not support you using anecdotal evidence because you are not in that girl's head. You cannot speak for that girl or against that girl because you are not in her head and you've never had to endure that kind of pain and suffering. So I don't think that's a fair example, and I can explain to you why I think that she was in the right. If you you said she never told him?
So she had, I don't know into that much specifics. I know she did not tell him until, I think maybe 2 weeks or so, something around that. She didn't tell him until 2 weeks after.
So she did it out of respect for him. So
she had completely cut him off. She had completely said she wasn't going to tell him, and he heard from one of her friends.
I'm not surprised because in that situation, it is stressful and it is harmful to you mentally. And it's very difficult to have another voice in your ear telling you what you have to do, especially when you care about that person very much. And I'm telling you that baby probably would have taken a huge toll on that girl, and she probably did not believe she could take care of it by herself.
She wouldn't have had to.
she probably did not believe she could split equal responsibility, and under the law she would have had to, because she is the mother. And I'm sure that's where she was coming from. I cannot speak for her because it's not me. But you can't speak for her either, because that is an anecdotal example that does not involve you.
She did what was okay. Okay. So at that point, when she said she was not going to listen to anything, she didn't even value his opinion. She didn't.
And I think that's wrong.
She did not consider it. I know she didn't, because she.
I think that's wrong.
There is a text, but okay, so you can cut me.
I think she should have. Sorry, Wyatt. You were cutting off. You were cutting off for me, so I thought you had stopped. I apologize for interrupting you.
So Wyatt, you cannot try to claim your dominance over. Oh, okay, hold on. The woman may have to endure the physical pain, which will go away, but the male's emotional pain will last for the rest of his life.
Which was a month after this happened.
Okay,
you cannot put your trust in him.
For a month, because he killed himself because of this.
Okay. Well, I very much apologize. That's very awful that happened to you, and I apologize. Please let me finish my point.
No, I just want to make one more point, and then I'll just let you finish. Okay. So she actually posted about it, making fun of him for dying.
I don't think she's right. No one is making sure she's in the right.
That's disgusting. No one is saying
that makes her a disgusting person. But you cannot generalize every person getting an abortion off of one instance in which a girl did the wrong thing.
No, I'm not. I know there are people that have abortions when the guy's not even in the picture. I'm just saying that when it's the man and the child's life at risk, I mean, you can't really justify it.
Okay.
But you are
okay.
It comes down to the point. Sorry, Willow.
I apologize. You were also talking, so I was talking over you, and I apologize. But no one is saying that her making fun of that man or that man killing himself was okay. No one is saying that. But at the end of the day, I am always going to approve the woman's life who's been living for what you say 17 years. I am always going to choose that over the 13-week-old baby or fetus, not even baby.
And the 17-year-old man.
I can share with you how big a 13-week-old baby is.
Yeah,
I can show you that.
At least you admit it's a baby.
No, I said baby in air quotes.
Oh. Well.
So don't.
You were using an anecdotal example that does not involve you to justify the banning of most abortions,
this has nothing to do with most abortions. I was just giving an example that this does happen, and it's not just.
So what was your point in making that? What was your point in using that evidence?
That it's not always that it does not always affect the woman. I don't.
But that's anecdotal evidence. You cannot do that.
Have you seen? There are many videos. There are many videos of up to 50 men talking about their experience with abortion and how it's affected them. So
okay, but at the end of the day, it's the woman's choice. At the end of the day, it is not a man who's going to go through that. At the end of the day, it's the woman's choice.
And neither of us are saying that the man should not be considered. We're not saying cut them out completely, that they shouldn't have a say. We're saying that at the end of the day, that the women mostly cannot put the trust in the man that stay. Because a lot of the time, when the man says, we need to have this baby, I'll take care of it with you, they don't. And there's nothing legally binding them to that except for child support, which is, we can all agree, is not half and half. Throwing money at someone does not equal responsibility, and we can all agree that. And that's what happens a lot of the time.
Yeah. If a woman doesn't want to have the kid, she should. I'll use pro-choice logic. I'm using majority, might not be your logic, but when the woman doesn't want the kid, she doesn't have to have it. When the man doesn't want the kid, he usually has to pay child support. So if the man doesn't want the kid, he should not have to pay child support
because he helped conceive that baby.
Yeah.
And so I think that I never said that the man should be completely thrown out of the situation, that he should be considered. In both situations, the man should be considered. So it's the same logic.
Exactly. And, everyone likes to say, what if the roles were reversed for the racial argument? But what if the roles were reversed for this? What if somebody, and I know you aren't a woman, so you'll never understand this ever, but imagine being a woman and you want to have this baby and you want to give birth to this baby, but someone said, no, you cannot have this baby, and they forced you to get an abortion. Or if someone forced since you're a man, just forced you to let someone kick you in the balls, how would you feel for that? Not very good.
Don't talk about getting kicked in the balls. Jesus
okay,
Christ.
But what if someone forced you to or
abortion,
vasectomy? What if someone forced you to have a vasectomy? How would you feel?
Well, I mean, when you have an abortion, you can have kids, and then when you
Okay, but when you have a
have
vasectomy,
other
you can
children.
also have kids.
So then I guess I don't understand what a vasectomy is then. What is a vasectomy?
It
is the removal of the it is the removal of the option to impregnate a woman. That is what it is.
So then how can you still have kids other than adoption? That doesn't
because
make
no
sense.
form of birth control or whatever is 100% effective.
Yes, if you may say free contraceptives for all, but birth control is only 99% effective, and condoms aren't even 100% effective because those can break.
Well, if you're that desperate to have sex, why have it if you know the risk?
I'm not
desperate?
sure if you've ever had sex before, and I haven't. But when you get in the bedroom with another person, all rationality goes out of your head, and that's human nature.
It is a human right to be able to do what you want, as long as it's not hurting anybody. And in my opinion, sleeping with somebody isn't hurting anybody. And consent, and like someone in the chat said, consent to having sex does not mean consent to having a child.
And
if you want to do this, I'm sorry, Amber, and if you want to do the sex argument, then keep it in your pants, because you are just as responsible for that baby as well. So, like if you
But you don't have a say in that baby's life, though.
What are you talking about?
Yes, you do. We're saying you should consider the man. No one is saying that you shouldn't. So when you keep saying you have no say in the baby's life, we're saying that you should. And any good person will tell the other person and rationalize through it. And here's the thing. I believe everyone should take responsibility for their actions if it's not at the detriment of another person. When it comes to getting pregnant and you force someone to have a baby, that is inherently putting that baby at risk of an abusive mother or father, because the father may not want that baby and the woman had it, and now he has to take some kind of partial responsibility for it. Or the mother who did not want that baby, when the father completely left the picture and just went rogue, has to take care of the baby that they don't want. So now you're subjecting that child to abuse in the name of responsibility, and I'm not for that.
So they should just die instead?
They're not dying because they aren't a living, breathing thing.
Okay.
Even when a fetus's lungs are fully developed, they aren't breathing.
Everyone who has had an abortion, a majority of people who have an abortion later will tell you that it is the right thing for them. But women who put their babies in the adoption system or have their babies, not even have their babies, people who put their babies in the adoption system, most of the time will tell you that they had suicidal thoughts and remorse for 12 to 20 years after, which I don't know, just the math in your head. I'm not saying that we should encourage abortions. I don't think we should at all. It should be planned. It should be like plan D. But I believe it should be an option there for all women. I don't think it should be the first option, but I feel like the option should be there.
I feel like, in my opinion, if you aren't breathing, you're not living. And you might pull the ventilator argument, but in that case, you aren't living, you are just existing.
And that's what your rights are signed over to your guardian.
I'll use this argument. So what if, say you're going to be in a coma for, say, 10 months or whatever, any period of time. You'll wake up. Are they just existing until then?
Yes, they are just existing because they are not living. They are just existing.
You had previous consciousness, which is the difference between someone in a coma and a fetus. A fetus has never had consciousness. That person has previous consciousness, and we know that they are, and then even then, their rights are signed over to their guardians. So they technically do not have a right to their own body either, because they can't control it. So their rights are signed over. So it's the same situation. Someone else is determining your fate. So it's the same thing. Legally, it's the same thing. So it's not even like a separate argument, because legally your rights are signed over to your guardians. And you had previous consciousness, so yes, you are living. It is not the same argument.
And, the definition of living is the pursuit of a lifestyle. And if you are in a coma, then you are not living, you are existing. You are not living. You are not pursuing a lifestyle. You are just existing as a being with no consciousness, but you are just existing. That is what you're doing.
So we just kill him?
No, that's not what either of us are saying, because we know that if we know that he will wake up or she will wake up and they have previous consciousness, but if the guardian decides that they don't want to put this person through that pain, that they can pull the plug.
And I don't understand, because you keep saying, so we just kill them. No one's saying that's
the
plan
whole
A.
abortion argument.
No one is saying that's plan A. We're not even saying that's plan B or C. It should be the last option. No one's saying, oh, you're pregnant, you don't know what you should do, have an abortion. No one's saying that. No one wants that. We want to reduce the amount of abortions. But we know that by banning them, you are putting people at a detriment if you ban abortions.
Okay, well, if we want to reduce abortions, I'm interested in hearing how we would do that.
If we want to reduce abortions, we make it legal and let the woman have time to decide. Because it is proven that when you ban it, the rates go up.
If you even restrict the time span, abortion rates go up.
I think you're misunderstanding me. I don't want to just ban abortions. Like, that won't work. I'm saying I'm saying that in certain circumstances, it should not be allowed.
Like what?
Like what circumstances?
I won't even use the teenage argument. I won't use any of that. So say a man and a woman are married, say they're in like 20s or whatever. They have sex, they have a kid. Why should she get to have an abortion when it's their responsibility?
By forcing that woman and that man to have that baby, forcing them, you're making them want that baby less, and you're putting them in an abusive situation.
So value is what really is the driving factor.
I do not condone putting a baby in a abusive situation because we want to force a woman to have a baby. No, absolutely not. And it should not be the first option either. They should consider all the options, especially like finances and all that with their families. They should consider with their families as well.
Also, Wyatt, we are not pro-abortion. We are we are not pro-death or pro-kill or pro-abortion or pro-murder. It's not even murder, but since you want to call it that, we are pro women's choice. We are pro giving women the right to their bodies. That is all we want. All we want is equal rights for women to do things that they want with their bodies. That is all. We are not pro-death. We are not pro-murder. We are not pro-anything. We are pro women's choice.
And my question is, what is your solution? So you say there's a problem and we have our solution clearly planned out. What is your solution?
My whole thing is I think that second trimester should be banned. Unless,
I'm going to go back with you again. Places that have banned second trimester abortions end up having more because women are put under the pressure to choose very quickly if they want an abortion. So most of the time they end up having one because they know they will not have that choice later on. So that increases the amount of abortions. So I believe in every circumstance that woman needs the choice. And
even third trimester
that works. It's a proven that works because first off, third trimester abortions are mostly not legal. So that's clearly working out just fine because no one's having a majority of people are not having an illegal abortion in the third trimester. There we go for that.
So give me an example of some place that has banned second trimester abortions.
Nowhere. I didn't say that. Everyone.
Third trimester abortions. So I want to know how the race will go.
A majority.
Wyatt, do not speak over Amber.
A majority
of people does not prove your point.
Yeah, and a majority of places have banned third trimester abortions. But the fact of the matter is that with second and third trimester abortions, even the ones that put the mother's life at detriment, that is only 9% of the time versus the 91% of the time that happens in the first trimester because women have that choice throughout the entire time. You are not allowed to go in most states to have a third trimester abortion. It is not, and I do believe that once the baby is about to be born, like past a point where that baby can be okay on its own and like the organs can function without having to be hooked up to machines, it is no longer legal to abort that baby because that is now that is a living baby. That can be a baby, and if that baby comes out at the given time and you have a C-section, that baby can live on its own, and that's not legal.
Okay. I never said anything about third trimester. But...
Okay, second trimester. That only happens a very small percentage of the time.
Well, if it's 9%, don't quote me on this.
It's actually
9% of 600,000 is like 50,000, something like that.
It's smaller. It's a smaller amount because that also includes women who have an abortion because of medical reasons. So 9%. That's including.
I'm not saying you should be forced if it's medical reasons. No, I don't think that's. In that case, it's self-defense.
Yeah.
The 9% second trimester
is
actually also smaller because it's actually only 6.67% second trimester, and it is like 2 point something percent third trimester, which is such a small percentage of women.
Yeah, and I was using the 9% because
Oh, I know, just to kind of group everything together.
Yeah,
so. but I was just saying that
like she just proved, a majority of those abortions are actually due to medical complications. Sorry if I talked over you, Willow.
Oh, you're fine. No, you're fine. We were talking together, kind of, which is something that I like to do. But the third trimester, those are either illegally done in countries where they're not allowed, or they're done in very, very serious medical cases. And the serious medical cases, if it's causing harm to the fetus or causing harm to the mother. And I am always going to value the if the mother's life is in danger, I'm never going to say you don't have the right to abortion, because I'm always going to value the woman who's had a consciousness, who's felt human love before. I'm always going to value that over a fetus that's never experienced anything, who doesn't have a conscience, who doesn't understand anything,
You can keep going, sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, say what you were going to say.
Well, no, I don't think that if it's going to harm the woman that she should be forced to have it. That's my whole argument. I don't think they should. I'm saying, if it is consensual, I don't understand why you took the risk. You don't have a reason to kill it just because you made a mistake.
Okay, but no, you do. Because if, the sleeping with somebody is a human right, and it's always going to happen. And it's, you're never going to be able to tell them men to keep it in their pants or keep it, or
and if you
I will say this, sorry, Amber,
you're good.
I will say this to the day I die: consent to sex is not consent to having a child.
What human on earth does not know that if you have sex, there's a chance you have a kid?
There's a chance, but if you can say contraceptives, then it's never going to, like, if you say not all contraceptives are always going to work.
And I'm also going to preach the point that if you force that woman to have that baby, you are knowingly subjecting that baby to a terrible life, because that woman is that baby's at an increased chance of being abused or born into poverty, in which the woman cannot take care of her. Now that baby is probably going to end up in a bad situation for the rest of their life, because most people who are born in poverty stay in poverty for the rest of their life. So you are subjecting that baby to a bad situation knowingly.
Just because you're born into poverty doesn't mean that you're going to be poor when you're older.
No, but statistically, people born into poverty are going to have a harder life and a harder future. And a lot of children born into poverty do commit suicide because their lives are not, perfect. And you are willingly, if you want to call it, then it's, if you want to call it death, then it's death then, because they are killing themselves, and that's an awful thing. So if you either have to choose kill it when it can't feel pain, or kill it when it's a human breathing living thing with experiences,
When you're pro-life, you have to consider everyone, because you're considering the woman, the baby in the future, and the man, who are all at an eternal detriment if they are forced to have the baby. I'm not saying everyone has a baby is at a detriment. If you force them to have that baby, you're putting everyone in the situation at a detriment. And that's not pro-life.
Why do you keep going back on the point like it could hurt her? I don't think if it would hurt the woman that it should be banned. That's my whole point.
No, I'm saying that if you make the woman have the baby and they're not at risk when they're pregnant, you're putting them at a detriment, because that baby is statistically more likely to be abused, put into a bad system, the adoption system and the foster system, or live in poverty and grow up in poverty and commit suicide in poverty their entire. So that's not pro-life. You're thinking about that baby until it's born, and then not thinking about what's next.
We haven't even gotten to the debate about the adoption system, so I don't.
Well, we already spoke on that, and we proved our points. Someone said in the chat that we lied about consciousness. No, we didn't. I did a ton of research before this. A baby does not have consciousness before its birth, and even at its birth.
And when it does, in the womb, when it does have consciousness, it cannot be aborted. And if they're talking about a person who is in a coma, they don't have consciousness. But we said that. So
it sounds like you guys value consciousness really heavy, but you said that even if it has 4 or 5 out of the 7 characteristics, what if consciousness is not one of them?
Consciousness is not.
And we're just proving the point that a fetus and a person in a coma are not the same things. A person in a coma or with a ventilator has had previous consciousness, so they had that ability. And even when they're in that situation, when they cannot sign their will on their own, their rights are signed over to the guardians. So they are not even in control of that themselves. So that's the point. We're not valuing anything over anything.
We go ahead.
No, I'm not gonna say it.
No, say what you were going to say, because in a debate, you're supposed to state your opinions.
Because I was going to say something and then I realized I'm not gonna say it.
Okay,
So-
well, if you're trying to make your argument, then you have to state something, because
No,
otherwise your argument is invalid.
My body, my choice.
What?
Your body, your choice?
Yes.
Yeah, you have the choice to do with your body, and women have the choice to do what they want with their bodies.
I'm just using your logic.
Okay, and your body, your choice.
Yeah, we're not trying to prevent anything happening from your body.
We aren't saying that men should be discarded like trash, and that they shouldn't have an opinion on anything. We are saying that it is a woman's ultimate right. It is altogether, it is always going to be the woman's right, because the man is never going to have that child. The man is never going to have to endure the mental and physical strain of having the child. That is never going to happen, and you need to understand that. Your body, your choice. Yes, you have the right to do what you want with your body. So therefore, women have the right to do what they want with their bodies. Otherwise, that would be very sexist of you.
And I'm asking. I'm curious. I'm not trying to like disprove you or anything. What do you mean by my body, my choice? Because I'm confused.
What do you mean? I was just using your logic because you've been saying it's the women's choice, all this, all that. And then I was trying to say, I went back on my word, and then you're all like, no, say it.
No, because I any point you're trying to make is a valid one, if you can prove it. So I'm asking what you meant by my body, my choice.
I didn't want to say something.
What? Okay, we'll just disregard that, I guess, because I understand, and we're sorry that we forced you to say that.
It's not that deep. Don't worry. It's not that deep.
Well, yeah. I didn't want you to feel like we were forcing you to say anything. I apologize if we did.
I'm not soft. I'm like, it's not. I don't take offense to everything.
Ah, dude, I got you. It's just, yeah, we're just.
Honestly, I don't think we're getting anywhere in this debate. I think that we can just agree.
Okay, well then let's find common ground then. We all agree that abortions should be legal to a point, at least, because we know that banning them in its entirety will make the rates go up. Do we agree? Yeah.
Yes.
And we believe that women that are at a detriment during their pregnancy due to their pregnancy should be able to have an abortion, right?
Yes.
I guess.
Yeah, like they're going to die if they don't have the abortion.
No, you cannot say you guess. It's.
I didn't understand what she was saying. I didn't like.
Yeah, if they're dying, if they're going to die if they don't have the baby.
Yes.
Yeah, at that point, it's not an abortion; it's self-defense.
Yeah. Okay, and I believe that's all the common ground we're going to find with that. So with that, we can end it if y'all want. Unless y'all have anything to say.
I don't have any other statements unless Wyatt would like to say something, and I can and I will respond to that.
No, I'm good.
You're good? Okay. Well, I'm glad that we found common ground on that. I'm glad.
I'm
glad we could have this discussion.
And I just realized that if I would have realized earlier, I would have said something and invited someone else. But I realized that the other guy left.
Did he?
Yeah, I didn't even realize that until right now.
No, I didn't either.
I would have said something, and I don't want anyone to.
I just thought he was quiet.
Yeah, I just thought he was quiet. I just thought he wasn't saying anything. Because at first I was calling him to say stuff, but he wasn't saying much. So I was like, okay, I'll let him just chime in whenever he needs to.
Do you want to change the topic, or do you now just want to unmute some people?
There's a couple people requesting to be unmuted to talk about this topic, so I'll